Hey there everyone, Fezboy here. Today I got a tutorial video for you. Today I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on making custom painted minifigs. So you can make custom minifigs like the Condiment King, or, Steve in his Scoops Ahoy outfit from Stranger Things. Whatever tickles your fancy. But anyway, let's get into it. So first I'm going to show you the type of paint I use when I paint custom minifigs. So I use non-toxic water-based acrylic paint. Most of the time I use Apple Barrel from Walmart. I also occasionally use Delta Creative, which is just this white paint that I got because I was at Target and I needed white paint, so this is the one I got. But usually I'll use just Apple Barrel white paint. And then I also use DecoArt metallic paints. So right here I got my metallic white, I got some metallic bronze or rich espresso that I got today. And I have a couple of others like silver, gold, and red. If you're low on budget, one thing you could do is you can take this metallic white paint and mix it in with, like, say you need a metallic blue, mix it in with a blue, and it will show up as metallic. As you can see, I also tested it out on this pair of legs, and it turned out pretty good. I actually really like it. And yeah, so let's move on to the tools I use to paint. I use a variety of items when painting, so one of which is this 6x8 brown plate that I use to put drawing pieces on and to also help me paint big figs. I have minifig parts that I'm okay with getting paint on that I use to paint certain parts of minifigs. I also have a couple of bricks too that I do the same thing, like this clear brick for when I'm painting legs. And if I need something to be set off drying and not in the way, I use this alligator clamp, which is articulating and has 2 clamps. So at the least I can do 2, and if I need to, I can add more bricks to do even more. Another thing that I use is I use a Sharpie occasionally for silver with this silver Sharpie. I also use a variety of different paintbrushes. So this is my orange set, which is the set that I use for minifigures and smaller things, which I just clean off with baby wipes. Then this is my white set of paintbrushes, which is a different variety of them. So I use these ones for bigger, more important stuff, which I actually use these ones, and then I wash them off with water to keep them nice and not messed up. I also use baby wipes to help clean off brushes and push pins that I use. I also use push pins to paint different details on. So, like, this one is a bit more dull. That's the main one I use because I can get a better line, but you can use whatever one you want, like a more pointy one. And one of the last things I use is I use a eraser to erase certain prints, and that's about it for painting minifigs. Let's get on to some of the extra tools I use. So extra tools that I use is masking tape for when I make capes and jackets, paper plates for putting my paint on, which I find is the easiest way for me at least, to put the paint on, have a bit of a palette, and they're nice and disposable, and they're very cheap to get a lot of them. I use this hole punch right here, which punches out a pretty good hole for minifigure head pieces and studs that I mostly use for the masking tape. I use Procreate sculpting putty for making some of the smaller molds. And for bigger stuff, and sometimes non-Lego stuff, I use this Hobby Lobby brand air dry clay, which dries in air along with the Procreate. And to go along with the clay, I have my sculpting tools, which I have a variety of, including this metal brush, which helps with getting like hair streaks. I also use a marker pen, or not marker pen, paint marker. And this is a black one. I use it mainly for like if I need to draw lines on my capes or jackets. And it helps just if I need a quick little line. I use a couple of different scissors. So I use just normal scissors for bigger things. And if I need small, really intricate work, I use these wire cutter scissors, which are, I believe, fly making scissors from making flies for fishing. I also use just some normal paintbrushes for applying Mod Podge and I use Mod Podge to seal up my clay and sometimes some of my painting work. And sometimes to sand down pieces or to get off prints, I use different nail filers as like sandpaper, which works really well. So there's that one, there's a small one, got a couple of different ones. And then for making sure certain bits of clay and pieces are nice and solid and connected, well, not pieces, only really clay, I use this super glue. You can really use any super glue. I suggest something like not Gorilla Glue because that's one of the strongest. I suggest something a bit more less strong, so then if you need to pull it apart and it doesn't get stuck on your fingers as much. And then I use just strips of Procreate that I have set aside to dry. Small thin strips that I use to cut or use to trim or add certain details. So yeah, let's get on to the tutorial. Oh, and before we get started, another thing I wanted to show you is I also use this X-Acto knife and to cut stuff. Just a warning, always be careful around knives and scissors. And yeah, now let's get back and begin. So first off, I'm just going to show you a couple of ways to get rid of prints on certain heads if you need the space. So first I'm going to show you just one of the ways I use it using an eraser and using an example of an angry clone face because I have tons of these. So what I do is I just take it and I start just rubbing it against the eraser until it's all gone. So time-lapse mode. So now as you can see, the face print is mostly gone. I didn't get it all because my light turned off, so I had to stop to fix that. But as you can see, it's mostly gone. The eraser worked pretty well. It can also work for like if you need just a beard erased. Just be very careful. You can always retouch up pieces, but it's always a pain to have to try to match what Lego did. But yeah, so see if I just finish scraping off this muscle face detailing right here from the cheekbone part. Boom. Now it's all nice and you got a blank head. So let's move on to option 2. So let's see what's behind door number 2. And it is that and this. So what it is just a finger nail filer and some legs. So this is how I've done my legs recently because the legs usually don't want to erase. Maybe you have better luck. But so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach this to a body and I'm going to just pop off one of the legs and I'm going to show you how I do it. So if I can get one of the legs off, always be careful because you never want the legs to break, but you also want to be able to get the legs off because they are supposed to come off because that's how they're put on. But so see, got both of them off. So I'm going to work on this leg. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to gently just file it against the nail filer just so that you can get rid of the print but not file down to the legs. So this is a pretty easy but also precise process because you don't want to sand off too much to where you're going to have to sand down both legs to match them up and then they're used for painting legs. But as you can see, so let's time-lapse mode this. So I'm going to stop it there. I know I didn't get all the print off, but it's just an example. So as you can see, it is pretty dusty. So what I do is I take a baby wipe and I kind of just wipe this off. And then just wipe it off with my finger. And now the print's pretty gone on the parts that I actually sanded off. I don't do this a lot because most of the time I just use whatever legs I can find. But I did end up having to do this with... So I'm going to stop it there. So after that, I wiped it off with a baby wipe to get all the dusts off. And you can't see the print from where I sanded it off. I usually don't do this unless I absolutely have to, like with these mid legs from the Lego Harry Potter series. I did that with the small amount of printing because I'm making a Stranger Things custom minifig set. So, not set, but collection. So I needed several mid legs, and these are the only ones I had. So yeah, just be careful because sometimes you could sand it just a bit too much, but if you do it nice and gently, it's not going to look too different. So if I attach it to this here leg, you can see, nice and done. So let's move on to the painting process. So I'm going to be working on my Max figure from Stranger Things. So I'm going to be doing the version of Max in her red jumper sweatshirt thing and blue jeans. I already have the blue legs all nice and done, so I'm going to be working on the body. So I put the body on just a pair of painting legs, and I'm going to be using just this red apple barrel paint. So plop it onto the plate, and I'm just going to do a base layer coat so I can add the details with this brush. So I dip it in the paint, then all I have to do is just add a couple of layers of paint. Might have to do this a couple times, a couple different layers, just so that the paint's nice and even. And so, just like that. And so I'm going to show you a different way to do it using a push pin. So doing the opposite side, the push pin's a bit more thorough because you can get much more. So if I do this, as you can see, the paint is nicely spreading. It's not as even as some might like it to be. You will probably have to add another layer to it, but that's alright because paint dries much easily. So you just got to keep doing it. And actually, if you keep going at it and you just add equal layers, you can actually get an actually kind of decent coat, and you might not even have to do a secondary coat. And with something like this, with like a shirt or something, it's okay if the strokes aren't even, because a shirt's usually never nice and soft and straight. It's usually a bit wrinkled. So after this is done, I'm going to do the opposite side now. I'm going to finish that up. I do prefer using the push pin because it usually only takes one coat. But for some, like white paint, I usually do the paint brush because the white paint goes on much smoother, because the white paint that I get is sometimes very, very gloppy. And I don't know why. I think that's just true with all white paints, because all the white paint that I've had usually comes out pretty, comes out gloppy, but it's gloppy to put on. But so now that this is done, I will put it onto this drying plate and put it aside. So now I'm going to work on the arms with the 2 white stripes on each side. So I got this little pole set up here with the arms. I'm going to use my push pin, and I'm going to use this apple barrel white paint. So now all I got to do is open it up and pour it out onto the plate. And let's begin. So all I have to do is just dip my push pin in some paint. You don't want to get a lot. And then I just got to take it to the edge of the hand and just keep dragging it along. Sometimes you'll need to get just more paint because it'll have dripped back to the top, and all you got to do is just keep going, just like that. So let's go into a time lapse. So now the arms are done, so now I just got to let them dry. So now that the body is mostly dry, I can start work on the details. So I'm going to be using this Kelly green for the undershirt, and the white for the outlines. So let's begin. So again, just dip your pin in some paint, and so since this is a fairly easy design, it is just pretty much a line down the center for the jacket, like that. You're going to want to make sure it's thick enough where it looks like an actual line, but also isn't too thick to where it doesn't look good. So you just got to find whatever you think looks the best. I'm probably going to fix this later on, but this is just for example purposes. I am not the best, nor claim to be the best, but I try my best. So after doing this, you go down, and I personally try to make things even, but if they're not, but they're close to, I leave it, but you can do whatever suits you best. So now the white lines are nice and outlined. Sorry. And now I can do the green undershirt, which is just a basic green coloring. So you dip it and you just make sure that you get the nice green undershirt. And boom. Just like that. Now you have Max's shirt. So now you got the shirt, you got the legs, and I also picked out some pieces for the head and hair, and you got the legs. So now let's see the final product. So now my custom Max is done, and you've got a basic tutorial on how to do the painting. This turned out really well in my opinion. I'll probably do a showcase for all my Stranger Things minifigs. I really love the mid-legs Lego created because now it gives you different heights. Hope you enjoyed. I'll probably be doing couple more tutorials like how to make masking tape capes, and yeah. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider liking, subscribing, comment down below. Have a good day, and allons-y!